And the wars in both Iran and Lebanon are worsening food shortages around the globe. The UN's World Food Program says the number of people facing acute hunger could reach 45 million by June. Carl Scow is the agency's Deputy Executive Director and joins us now. Carl, good day to you.
Good morning.
I know you were recently in Beirut looking at the humanitarian situation. I wonder what struck you most there.
I mean, it is for me a bit of a déjà vu because I was in Lebanon 1 week into the war back in 24. So it's the same pattern. You have hundreds of thousands of people who are now being housed either in shelters provided by the government authorities or in houses or apartments of friends and family. But this time around, more desperate and frankly, no margins. You might think that having been displaced before make it easier, but it's actually the contrary. They have no margins, and they are frankly, there is a sense of fear and a lot of uncertainty. What will happen next? When will this end? How will it end? But I think, Lebanon is really now the epicenter of the direct impact of this war in terms of humanitarian needs. But there is also a global picture here where, the risk is for hunger globally to surge because the food markets and the energy markets very much correlate. And on top of that, now we have constraints on fertilizer. And this is what we saw back in 2022 when the war on Ukraine started. And so what we're expecting here is for food prices to go up, and that is really pushing people, especially those in sub-Saharan Africa and other poor countries that has no margins, already spending everything they have on food, into deeper poverty and hunger. We expect some 45 million people, if this war continues to June, to add on to what is already historic levels of global hunger.
And as I understand it, the World Food Program, which would normally come to the aid of many of those people, it is itself facing a budgetary crunch.
I mean, that's very much so. We were already in a perfect storm, if you will, where, as I spoke to, the needs have gone up. Some 320 million people already acutely food insecure. That's historic levels already. We had 2 famines last year, and now this year 1 famine still in Sudan. And on top of that, our funds have really plunged with 40% drop last year. I think what is happening now also is that this is having an impact on our operations. We estimate that the cost of our operations globally is up already by 20%. We run also the UN Air Service, the logistics for the humanitarian system, and that's very fuel dependent. So the cost of doing business is up 20%, and that means less assistance, less food, to the people we serve. And also these supply chain disruptions. I mean, it's probably the biggest disruption to supply chain the world has seen since COVID. And that is also having an impact. We had a ship sailing with rice from India to Sudan that took another 2 weeks now because of these disruptions. So it's not only the Strait of Hormuz, it's across the globe. This impact on our humanitarian supply chains.
I mean, I would even note the food bank in Toronto, Canada's largest city, had a shipment of rice on a ship that was hit itself in the Strait of Hormuz, and they lost that rice. We'll now have to go and sort out another source for it. It speaks to the global nature of this. You were speaking about Lebanon. I wonder if I could just talk to you briefly about Iran, a much larger country, a population of 90 million, millions there on the move, including many who came to Iran as safe haven from places like Afghanistan. What is the situation there?
I mean, so far we have not stepped in to support the overall population, but we are supporting the refugee population, as you pointed to, 1.5 million Afghanis in Iran, and we are expanding that to also include host communities. We stand ready, of course. I mean, WFP has the experience to deliver at scale, but of course what we hope is that there will be de-escalation, that this war will stop, and that will not be necessary. I think that's frankly urgent, and in the meantime, we really hope that donors step up. We need the resources. I mean, there is a lot of money spent every day on this war. To deal with the humanitarian impact is just the friction of that, and we really hope that our donors will step up and support us in this response.
Carl Scow, a busy time for you. I appreciate you giving us some of your day. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.